What's the difference between I know the answer, I do know the answer? Well, they're both correct, but grammatically they're different. I know the answer is the present simple. I do know the answer is the emphatic form of the present simple. Today you'll learn everything you need to know about the emphatic form. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Let's review our sentence again. I know the answer. Of course, this is the present simple. The structure is subject, base verb, plus S or ES. And this is used for facts, states, and routines. You know that, right? Now let's review I do know the answer. This is the emphatic form of the present simple. So this sentence is still the present simple, but the emphatic form. The structure is different. The structure is subject plus do or does conjugated with the subject plus base verb. Now, the emphatic form is used to add strong emphasis, to show surprise or contradiction, or to confirm or insist that something is true, especially if someone doubts it. Now, don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's review an example where you would use the emphatic form to add strong emphasis. I could say to you, you've been studying for hours. You do know the answer. So I'm emphasizing that fact.
You do know, you do know.
Now let's review an example to show surprise or contradiction. I could say, oh wow, you do know the answer? I'm impressed, or I'm surprised perhaps. And to confirm or insist that something is true, especially if someone doubts it, this is a very common time to use the emphatic form. I could say, you don't have to believe me, but I do know the answer. So I'm insisting this is true. Now, just know grammatically, the present simple is always correct and can be used instead of the emphatic form. So every example I give you in this lesson, you can replace the emphatic form with the present simple. But there is a subtle difference in meaning between the present simple and the emphatic form. If I say you've been studying for hours, you know the answer in the present simple, I'm stating a fact. If I say you've been studying for hours, you do know the answer, I'm emphasizing a fact. Or same thing, oh wow, you know the answer, I'm impressed. Again, stating a fact. Oh wow, you do know the answer, I'm impressed. Stating a fact while also showing surprise or that I thought you wouldn't know the answer. And that's the subtle but important difference. Or again, you don't have to believe me, but I know the answer. Stating a fact. You don't have to believe me, but I do know the answer. I'm stating that fact strongly to emphasize it in the face of doubt. Remember, you're doubting me. Now, so far, all my examples used the verb know, but any verb can be formed into the emphatic form. Let's review some examples. I do go there.
I do go to bed pretty early.
I do live in Canada. I do like pizza. I do write emails every day. I do cook dinner sometimes.
But when I do cook, I'm following a recipe.
I do fix my bicycle when it breaks. I do jump over fences. I do cry during sad movies. That's true. I do dream big. I do die for coffee. So any verb you can think of can be used emphatically. But just know, only use the emphatic form if you're adding strong emphasis, showing surprise or contradiction, or confirming that something is true in the face of doubt. Use the present simple if you're simply stating a fact. So if you just ask me, oh Jennifer, where do you live? I would reply and say, I live in Canada. I'm stating a fact. If you say, Jennifer, where do you live? And I say, I do live in Canada, it sounds awkward because there's no reason to emphasize this. But if you say to me, you don't live in Canada, well, now I can emphasize that something is true and say, no, I do live in Canada.
I do live in Nashville, Tennessee. I think everybody knows that.
So far, all the examples have used the subject I, but remember in the emphatic form, you need to use do, does based on the subject. I do love pizza. You do love pizza. He does love pizza. She does love pizza. It, the dog, does love pizza. We do love pizza. They do love pizza. So of course, the same rules as the present simple. You use do with I, you, we, they. Does, he, she, it, third person singular. You already know that. It's the same rule as the present simple. So now you know the difference between I know the answer, I do know the answer. What about these two sentences? I knew the answer, I did know the answer. Well, I knew the answer. Of course, this is the past simple. I did know the answer. This is, yes, you got it, the emphatic form of the past simple. So if you say, I knew the answer, of course, this is the past simple. We have subject plus past verb, and this is used, of course, for completed past actions. If you say, I did know the answer, this is the emphatic form of the past simple. The structure is different. Subject plus did for all subjects plus base verb. And this is used for the same reasons as the present simple. It's used to add strong emphasis in the past, to show surprise or contradiction in the past, or to confirm or insist something was true in the past, especially if someone doubts it. So the exact same reasons why is just the difference in structure between the present and the past. So let's review some realistic sentences. I can say, yesterday you lifted 50-pound weights. See, you did improve.
I think you really did improve night over night.
So I'm using the emphatic past simple to add emphasis to a fact. The fact would simply be, see, you improved. That's the past simple to state a fact. Or I could say, you did call him? I thought you forgot. So I'm showing surprise or contradiction.
Honey, you did call him back because it's really old.
If I simply say, you called him, I thought you forgot, I'm stating a fact in the past, of course. Or if I say, I did send the report on time, I'm confirming or insisting that something was true. Remember, the past. Especially if someone doubts me, maybe my coworker or my boss even. But if I say, I sent the report on time, I'm just stating a fact about a completed past action. Remember that in the past simple emphatic form, all subjects use the same structure, so it's easier. And any verb can be formed into the emphatic form in the past simple, just like we saw with the present simple. So you could say, I did finish my homework. You did call her last night. He did help with the project. She did find her keys. It did rain yesterday. We did watch the movie. They did arrive early. Also keep in mind the emphatic form that you just learned exists in the present or past simple affirmative, which means positive sentences only. So you can't use the emphatic form with perfect tenses, future tenses, continuous tenses, the negative form, or question form. Present simple positive, past simple positive. Now that you know the rules, quite simple, right? Now that you know the rules and the structure, let's quiz your knowledge. You're going to see a question, and then you need to answer out loud, and your answer must use the emphatic form. And you'll have to look at the question to decide if you need the present or the past. I'm not going to tell you, just to make this quiz more difficult. I'll only give you 3 seconds, so of course feel free to pause the video, think about it, and then hit play when you're ready, and you can say the answer out loud. Question 1, you know how to swim? The answer? I do know how to swim. You're emphasizing this, and notice my question, almost a statement but said as a question. There's an assumption that you don't know how to swim, or there's surprise in this. So that's why you're using the emphatic. Question 2, did he call you yesterday? The answer? Yes, he did call me yesterday. The question used did, so you know it's the past simple. And I'm emphasizing the truth of this. Question 3, you don't like coffee, do you? The answer? Actually, I do like coffee. You don't need to add actually, or you could say yes, I do like coffee, or you could simply say, I do like coffee. And notice in the question, again, there's an assumption that you don't like coffee. So that's why you're using the emphatic form. Question 4, this might be a little tricky. Feel free to pause. Question 4, it's okay that you didn't finish the project on time. How would you reply? I did finish the project on time. So the question assumes you didn't, and you want to correct that by saying, no, I did finish the project on time. Question 5, they never help with the cleaning. How could you reply? They do help. They do help with the cleaning. They do help sometimes. But you could simply say they do help. So again, the question states that they don't, and you want to affirm the opposite, insist the opposite. They do help sometimes. How are you doing with this? Question 6, I think I forgot to lock the door. We should go back and check. What could you say? You did lock the door. I saw you. You could add that, or maybe you say, I did lock the door. So you're affirming that you did the action, so the person doesn't have to worry. So again, the person assumes that the opposite is true, and you're emphasizing, you're affirming. Question 7, does she always come to work on time? What could you say? Yes, she does come to work on time. So you're emphasizing that fact. Question 8, why don't you eat vegetables? You can reply back and say, I do eat vegetables, or maybe add, I do eat some vegetables. I do eat certain vegetables. So again, the questioner assumes you don't do something and you want to affirm or insist the opposite. Question 9, we need to discuss why you didn't follow the checklist. You can reply back to this and say, I did follow the checklist. I did follow the checklist. So again, contrary to what the person believed. And question 10, they didn't attend the meeting last Friday, did they? You would say, they did attend the meeting. So how'd you do with that quiz? Share your score in the comments and review this again so you understand the structure of the present, the structure of the past, and when it's used. And do you want me to keep helping you improve your grammar? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.